Hey Gooby, you're now listening to Buddy Time. On today's episode, we'll be putting the spotlight on the actor, transporting you from the stages of New York to Bangkok with our guest speaker, Danainan Kridakorn na Ayutthaya. Ready to turbocharge your day with us? Let's begin our voyage! Hey folks! Come one, come all today. We're so excited to have you back here with us on this episode. I'm so ecstatic today because we have a very special guest with us. He's a fellow thespian just like myself, a professional actor, and also a person I call friend. Vin, it's so nice to have you here.
It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Can you introduce yourself to the listeners so that they get to know your wonderful self?
Oh my gosh. Hello there. My name is Vin, but my, legal name is Danainan Kridakorn na Ayutthaya. I'm an actor was based in New York. I was there for 16 years. I did my MFA at the Actors Studio Drama School there, and I just stayed. Did a lot of theater and film and TV, and kind of decided that it was time to come back to Thailand to be close to family. But also I'm involved with this theater company called Live Theater, which we can talk about later. But there was a huge sort of decision to make in terms of like coming back here. But my calling made it really easy and offered me a position at the theater company. So I'm working there right now and having a blast.
That's so wonderful. I just wanted to also let the listeners know of, how I also believe so much in timing of the universe, and also how things just, if things are meant to happen, it happens. And that's how I actually got to meet Vin. I went to a fringe show of a theater community, right?
Bangkok Community Theater.
And out of a whole sea of people and all the big massive room that we were in, I went with a friend, and we just happened to sit in a particular spot that we randomly chose, and there Vin was just sitting right next to us. And actually he was I think 2 chairs away, and then because there were people flowing in, Vin decided to move closer to us, and then we got to chat a little bit. And then after that, Vin shared what he just shared with all of you, his introduction, and I felt like there was a piece of home in his story, and I feel like I resonated so much with the story that he shared. I wonder, as an actor, how did you start it with all of this, your passion? Would you call acting your passion, Vin?
Yeah. By the way, it was such a moment to meet you that evening because it was just out of the blue. And then we went to have drinks afterwards and just kind of really bonded. But it was really the power of theater, I think, that brought us together.
Also, that I did not know that we had a ex professor that my friend knows of, and then he was in the production that we were watching, but he was also your friend, right? And it was all just this moment of clicking and knowing, and
the stars kind of aligned
totally
in a really fascinating and magical way. I mean, I remember sitting next to you guys both and just kind of eavesdropping a little bit. But you were both also drinking a whole bottle of wine. And I was like, I think these are my people. But yeah, that was really, really wonderful. I would say acting is something that I've always dreamed of doing, but didn't know how to go about it when I was younger. So it took me a long time to figure out how I could actually do this professionally. I started doing music first and did my bachelor's at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, in music education, and then sort of sidetracked into acting sort of that way. But I would say after being in the industry for so long and sticking through it, it's just something that is really ingrained in who I am at this point.
Wait, so you started with music. I didn't know that about you. So what, do you play an instrument?
I used to play the piano, and I was a music director. So I led choirs at the time. I was also in a cappella. I was in an a cappella group called Kopi Tones. Shout out Kopi Tones from Michigan. Yeah, I did music for a long time and really enjoyed it, and was thinking about being a music teacher. But when I was a senior in college, we would have to actually teach in schools, like as an exchange student with like real experience. And seeing music teachers in the field was rough, like in the sense that all the students usually filter through the arts program at a school, and the art programs are the first to get cut. So the school that I went to, like the middle school, had a really amazing, heartwarming teacher, but she was so overwhelmed because there were just so many things that she needed to do on top of the regular classes. She also needed to direct their musical. There were after-school programs. There was like an acting after-school portion, and they also did competitions as well. And this is middle school. And so it's just like one music teacher for the entire school. And a lot of schools, in the US are like that. So when I saw that, I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to survive this.
Surprised that as a middle school, individual at that time, a student, you already clocked the importance of like career and all these things. Because when I was in middle school, I wasn't thinking about which teacher is having a hard time teaching and will I get a job in this particular, aspect and things like that. So that's so surprising to hear that you have started to reflect upon that already.
I had that very young. Like I was the type of person, if you were to ask my friends or my family, they'll be like, oh, he knows what he's going to do. I mean, I did change from music to acting, but I remember at the time, like I was planning ahead already. I was actually also thinking about doing a master's in choral conducting. So I was in that time talking to other students and talking to my professors. I actually applied to Michigan and pulled out last minute before the audition. But I did go through an audition at Northwestern and actually got in. I actually got into their master's choral conducting program, and they only accept like 1 to 2 people a year. And so I got in and I freaked out because I just had this epiphany moment of like, I don't know if this is actually for me, even though...
To your middle school teacher, and you're like...
Yeah, like thinking back to just like, oh, is this what I really want to do, like actually want to do? And then seeing, the teacher having, like a breakdown. And so when Northwestern called me and like, hey, you haven't accepted our offer, I said... Yeah, I'm actually not going to take it. I'm going to go to New York. And they were shocked. They were so surprised. I feel kind of bad, but I'm sure they got someone really, really amazing.
And at that time, did you already have plans for New York, or you were going it, but like just swinging it? And...
At the time, I did not yet. So while I was applying for master programs in music, I was also applying for MFAs in acting. And I didn't apply to a lot because I didn't know much at the time. But I applied to the Actor Studio Drama School program in New York and actually had to fly in and audition and do a scene, and then got in like a month later or something. And so, yeah, that was it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to New York.
And out of curiosity, because I had that moment, I wonder if you do as well. Like, was there a click, realize, like a light bulb moment when you realized that acting might be something that you wanted to pursue? Because for me, it's so visceral. Like till this day, there was something that happened in my life that triggered the thought of like, theater is what I want to pursue, and I just kept going with it.
Yeah.
For you, was there a moment like that?
Yeah, I did theater in high school. I did theater in college, like as a hobby to the side while I was pursuing music. So I kept it alive. And of course, music, there's, you're also performing and it's creative and all that. But it wasn't like hit the spot entirely. It wasn't until as I said, if I actually accepted that and went to Northwestern and did that program, I think that was going to be it. Like that was going to be my track. And I remember I was looking in a mirror, like as cliche as it sounds, I was just like looking at myself. I'm like, I don't think this is it. Like, I think like I have to at least try to pursue this dream that I was kind of tiptoeing around. But the truth is, if I didn't get into the Actor Studio, I'm not quite sure what would have happened. Like that was the one thing that I was like, okay, I think this is like a sign. This is a sign for me to jump. And moving to New York and starting this program felt like, oh, at least I have like the 3 years ahead of me planned. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have to figure a lot out yet. I can just like start this program and see how it goes and then make decisions from there.
Was there any fear when you make that decision? Because to me, that sounded quite bold and quite courageous. You're basically getting into something that you have no idea if. The only thing I think you knew back then was music teacher isn't something that you wanted.
Right.
And that sounded like, yeah, that's the reason, good enough reason for me to like just move away from this. But you're also at the same time venturing into nowhere, like because you're also trying to explore.
I think it goes back to what you were asking about, like how did you know? There's just like this innate feeling that I just have always known about myself, is that I love performing, I love acting, but I was a very shy kid. And so it took me a while to actually admit that to myself in a way, you know what I mean? Because of the timing that I grew up and, you know, like, I don't know, like when I was younger, it's kind of weird to be like, oh, I want to be an actor. It's like, really? Like, how? Like, how does that work? Like, nobody around me knew what that was. Like, I didn't grow up in like a family that was in that industry. As many parents, Asian parents, like they want to make sure that I actually have something that's viable. But they also knew that I was a pretty determined person and passionate about this. And so it was a really big decision because I felt like I was betraying, or was like, with all the teachers that I had, because they thought I was going to pursue music. That's right. So I like lie. Like I felt like I lied to them a little bit as I was trying to figure that out. And part of it was true, but there was this other part that I wasn't sure. And so when I kind of changed course, I had to kind of go back and tell them that I was like, I got into Northwestern, but I want to be an actor, and you know, like hopefully that's okay. Like it's similar to kind of moving here. Like it was such a big decision, but I'm not one to shy away from that. I don't know. Like I think if it feels right to you in your gut, then you just have to go for it. Like you have to see what that road will lead you, because then I don't want to regret later. Like the same thing is like when because the Northwestern path was offered to me, right? Like I got it, and it was a great school, and I grew up in the Chicagoland area, so it was actually an area that I was very familiar with. I liked the Midwest, but it just didn't feel right. And so I was just a firm believer in myself that, you know, I think I have what it takes, I think, and we'll just go down this road and we'll see.
I think that us theater people, there's something about learning about theater. We tend to, I don't want to put myself on a high horse or anything like that, but we do tend to reflect quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I see there's a part of your story that I really resonate with, and I kind of giggled a little bit because
which part? Where did you giggle?
You were like, the way you sort of just knew. I talk to Sin a lot as well, but not just about big decisions like that, but the small decisions in my life. There's just there's some sort of moral compass in my sense that when I reflect on myself, and I just know that some things are not right for me, and I'm just like, I don't know why. I just feel like this is the right path, and I just need to go through with it.
Yeah.
And hearing you reflect on yourself and your decision, it just made me think of myself when I think about that as well. So I saw a part of, I really connect to that.
Yeah.
And well, that aside, I feel like that's, you know, I'm going on a tangent a little bit, but that aside, I wanted to understand what was the experience for you that must be like for working as an actor and being in this like industry, you know, in the US, especially for Asians. Like when I did a degree in like theater as well, not in acting, but in designing and in producing. And when I took this degree, I was very privileged enough that my, you know, family supported me in whatever decision I wanted to make.
Yeah.
But then that you brought that up about like, especially in the entertainment industry, there's a lot of uncertainties in that, and you don't make a lot of money in comparison to like business and like sciences and being a teacher or whatever, like all these things that an traditional Asian family would think. So I was wondering, in your case, how was your experience being an actor, and did you ever have to face this sort of like scrutiny from your the people around you?
Yeah. So my family is pretty supportive in general, I would say, but they were worried about like, what am I going to do? Like, how does this work? Like, no, as I said, nobody really knows what the life of an actor is. I don't think they still have any idea of like my journey in New York and how hard it was, or what my day was like day to day. Like, nobody has any clue. Like, I had so many side jobs. They have no idea what it is. Like, they just like have no idea what that life is like. Right. Like, you were I worked as a waiter. I worked in catering. I worked in tech recently. Before I moved back here, I worked as an usher. Like, you do whatever you can do to make money. Like, that's just the life of an actor over there. That's pretty much it. I worked for this organization called Fair Housing Justice Center, which was this really wonderful organization that advocated for housing equality. Like, I really enjoyed working there. Yeah, so odd ends. Like, but the point is, I had to do anything in order to survive. So I think my parents are kind of like, if you can make your own way, then they're open to it, but they're continuously worried. Like, my mom would kind of like suggest, like, why not, you can be behind the scenes, you can do things. Like, why do you have to be in front of the camera? I'm like, Mom, I want to be an actor. Like, that's what do you mean? Like, I want to be in front of the camera. Like, that's the whole point anyway.
Sorry, but that's interesting to me, because earlier you said that you grew as a shy kid.
Yeah.
And then you just suddenly, maybe not suddenly, but how did you become a person who's like, I want to be in front of the camera, the whole world?
Yeah. I think I've always had that urge, but I'm an incredibly shy person. Like, when I was younger, if you were to ask me to sing in front of people, my voice would shake, like my legs would start shaking, or I'd become like super small, like my voice become really soft. And that carried until college years, and even in the professional business, like auditioning. Like, I've had so many auditions where you just feel, it's nerve-wracking being in the audition room, especially if you're auditioning for really big directors or casting directors, or it's for like a big job. It's like really easy to kind of crumble under pressure. So I would say, like, I've been able to bring forth different aspects of myself, and after you do it for a while, it can, you kind of get used to it. But I'm an introvert by nature, so that part of me will never change. Like, there are certain people or actors who are very extrovert, and they kind of exert that kind of energy. I'm like more like a Nicole Kidman. Like, I'm very soft-spoken, but
but a huge star.
But a huge star in my mind,
How was your journey in starting in New York? Were there a lot of opportunity presented to you?
Yeah, so I lived in New York for a total of 16 years. So during that time, it's been really interesting to see how the industry has changed or remained the same. I think in general, like, the industry has definitely got more expansive, and there's much more variety of roles. Like, you can clearly see, like, in movies and TV, like, the casting has changed over the years. But when I started out, 16, 15 years ago, a long time ago, the landscape was very different. In New York, there's also like the theater community, and then there's, I guess, like the film TV community. And in theater, things move quite slow. And I think in terms of theater, there's still a lot more room to grow in terms of diversity. It's just, that's like an ongoing problem, I think, in New York in terms of representation on stage. It's gotten better, but it's definitely hard. So in one show, there might be, like one role that I could do that is like a specifically for an Asian American character that is in my age range, or even just like an Asian character, or anything like that. And that's the same for any TV film role. Like they'll have like a one Asian, that's what they call like the token Asian, right? Where there's like one Asian guy who will get that part. And so even though there's more roles, it's just like you're still competing for like, the one role for that one show.
But would you say that as you got yourself, like immerse yourself in this industry, zero knowledge about, this industry, and especially in New York, in America. So I'm wondering, in this industry, does experience help with you getting opportunities?
It is an industry built on like who you know. So it's kind of hard. It's like kind of like they want to hire you if you have experience, but I can't have experience if you don't hire me. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of egg chicken thing. So it is hard to kind of get your feet wet in the industry. So that's why it's like really highly competitive, and actors are willing to work for free and just to get that experience, because then that will lead to the next thing. And one thing I wanted to say is like it is a very hard industry, and it is similar to here in that it's like very cutthroat and it's very competitive. And I think the one thing that universally that actors have to deal with that's very difficult is rejection. It's just like it is so the amount of times you get rejected in this industry is harsh. Like a lot of people don't, I think, really understand like how much work you have to do to get that role, and how many hoops you have to jump, and a lot of it is out of your control. And so, getting rejection day in, day out, it's hard on someone, in order to survive that and have some longevity. And I'm not saying that I like successfully at all times, because there are definitely moments where I'm like, I quit. Like, this is too much. Like my dream role, like I didn't get, like that was, and you're like, oh, that wasn't meant for me. Like I that was my breakthrough role. And then you don't get it, right? And then it's just like this whole spiral. But that's one thing I think for an actor's journey is like, how do you deal with rejection? I think that's something that's really crucial in terms of like, how can you be in this industry with like the ups and downs, and doing all these side jobs, and not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from or in your next role. Like, how can you really get up and do the same thing the next day and send that next audition tape? Is, again, like we were speaking about passion, and that's what it comes back to me every time. Is like, I just love it too much. There's been moments that I maybe quiet quit, you know what I mean? Like, half quitting, like I'm not like announcing anything, but I'm just like, I'm not into it today. I'm not gonna, this tape sucks or whatever it may be. But I always come back to it because I love it so much. And it's like everything around it is hard, but that moment that you're connecting with another actor on stage or like, in front of a camera, it's like a drug, like I'm like addicted to it.
I think you bring up a really great question as well, like to how to take on rejection. I want to ask you that question that you brought up. Mm-hmm. How do you yourself handle rejection? Do you have any tips and tricks that you use to deal with in your own personal?
I think it's the same whether you're starting out or you're, Brad Pitt. I feel like rejection is just part of the business, and the more that you can move on to the next thing, like the faster that you can go through that experience of rejection, the better off you'll be. Like that's how I kind of do it, and how other actors, I think, through, talking through like an actors group, like the best way to go around it. So basically what that means is you go through the feeling. So you're not pushing it away, but you're letting yourself have the emotion, whatever that is for you, of that rejection, but also finding out that way to pull yourself back to be excited for the next thing. Like, so you're not just pushing that sadness or disappointment away. You're feeling the feelings, but you're just training yourself mentally to get to the next thing faster, because the more energy that you spend on the lacking, you're going to attract lacking, right? You're going to attract like that type of energy. So you want to kind of figure what that is for you, like that way of pathway to get to a place of like, you know what, like the next thing is going to be better, or I'm going to, like this wasn't meant for me, and whoever it was meant for them, and the thing that's meant for me is coming. Like I'm excited for XYZ. I'm going to take this class tomorrow. I'm going to have coffee with this director that I really want to work with, or you know what I mean? Like the more that you can look ahead, or just, be excited about things to come, that will attract more, that type of energy towards you.
Hearing this story, it's making me think that being an actor is not for the weak.
No.
It's like, honestly, like hearing this and what you just shared, I'm like, I was looking for like steps, sort of like go work out, drink kombucha or something like this, And it's like, oh, okay, like something that when I hear, I could like take. But then a lot of what you've said and what I got is also a lot of mental sort of like training. You need to train yourself to move past a certain feeling. And that is so hard. And I feel like it's not for everyone.
It's very hard. Like the mental gymnastics that we have to do day in, day out in terms of, but it's not only just rejection. There's like other things, right? Like projects falling apart. You're doing a show and you get a bad review. Like experienced that before, or, just like a show, maybe it didn't work out the way that you wanted. You know what I mean? Like this industry is just so fickle. And there's so many variables that how do you go through this mental gymnastics and still feel balanced and healthy and sane? Like, I mean, there's definitely been moments where I didn't feel that, where, again, I was talking about dream roles, and there's been a couple where this, where this role is right for me, and I'm imagining like I'm doing it, and this is gonna be my big break, and my life is gonna change, right? And I'm not gonna be poor anymore, whatever it may be. But then you don't get it, and then you're just like, oh, all of that dream is just gone, right? And then you're left with nothing. Like that can be kind of detrimental if you go through that cycle, obviously, of like lacking, right? I didn't get this, I didn't get that, like, but then you're also like, oh, I didn't get that money, I didn't get that dream role, I didn't get work with that director, and I didn't, whatever the case may be. So I have found that I don't quite get into those details quite yet. Like, I'm going to focus on the role and the character and bring forth the best tape that I can do, and then I forget about it. So I throw away the sides or the audition pages, and I move about my day. Like, I do the tape, and then I move forward. Like, no matter how small or big it is, I'm not thinking about it. Like, until I hear back that I get a call back or I got the job or whatever it may be. But I just don't spend any mental energy on it because it hasn't happened yet.
Flipping the perspective a little bit, I wanted to hear also about like once you get the role, the excitement and all these things that sink in. Do you have any like super highs that you can recount like throughout your experience and your years in New York? Do you have anything that you particularly loved?
I think it's maybe the same as any actor. Like any audition that requires like multiple rounds, or like, you just feel like it's such a slim chance, but you get it. There's a little bit of a rush. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it definitely feels good to be picked, and like that I will probably never get over, in the sense that like, like a director reaches out and specifically chooses me, or said like they saw me in this and they think I'll be great in that, or anytime that happens, I'm so grateful, because it's like there's so many other actors that you could choose from. So the fact that you choose me, I feel really honored and privileged.
Is there a particular play or script that you particularly love and have a connection to?
Like, started out after grad school, I was doing black box theater for like a year and a half, and I auditioned for this one show that was going to be at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And for those who don't know, Oregon Shakespeare Festival is a huge theater company in Oregon, and they are open like 10 months out of the year, and they do around like 10 to 11 shows. It's the biggest theater company in the States. And when I auditioned for it, I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, because I didn't know. I just went in, did my thing, and then I got like 2 more callbacks. And then when I got it, like my trajectory career like shifted entirely. So I went to do that show out in Oregon Shakes for 6 months. And then that show ended up touring for the next like 3 years. New play by Mary Zimmerman, who is like a Tony Award-winning director out of Chicago. And she wrote it while we were rehearsing. And it's called The White Snake, and it's like an ensemble piece. So I was really roped into this. To me, it felt like just happenstance, but it just changed my career, because it took me from black box hole in the wall theater to like really like nice, like huge theaters. And we traveled to all these theaters like in the States, and then we went to China for like a theater festival. It was like a really wonderful experience, and I became really close to the cast members on that show.
While getting to travel to China, that's like insane. Like,
yeah, it was really insane, because they like a director from that festival came to see the show, and they're like, "Oh, I think this would be a great closing show for our festival," and so it's a huge show. It has like elaborate set and costumes and props and etc. So to bring that entire show to China was crazy. Like, I've never had that experience. It was just such a good time. And I was like in my 20s, like I wanted to work and like to be able to do like a huge show and a great cast and get paid. And that's like the dream. That was the dream for me.
I feel like hearing this whole extensive story as well, it must have been hard for you to let all of that go that you've built and then like move all the way back to Thailand.
Yeah.
What made you think about even dropping all of that and coming back? It sounds like you have a great thing going, and then you're just like, all right, peace out, friends, like, see ya.
Well, as I was like mentioning earlier, like I think like that unpredictability can be very hard, and I was doing it for 16 years. I guess if you don't count my master's, like 14 years, 13 years. So I've been in that industry and working and hustling for a long period of time. And as I said, like there's a lot of rejection that people don't see versus the shows and the things that you get to do. So I've been in the States for a long time, but I always come back to see family. So most of my family is in Bangkok. So I fly like once, if I'm lucky, twice a year. And I got involved with live theater because of a friend who also went to the Actor Studio, and she knew of a director who also went to the Actor Studio Drama School a different year, who lives here. So I got roped into working with her, and we've done shows together, and we've also have done acting workshops together. And she's been working here for a long time, teaching people about sort of the method over there. And so there's been like a huge shift here, I think, in terms of acting and acting styles and the types of shows that we're consuming. Like 15 years ago, we just had soaps. We're mostly soaps. and on like primetime television. And now obviously it's like
First thing that came up in my mind was like shampoo soap, and I was like,
like
I was like, yeah, 15 years ago, Thailand had soap.
Before that, we just used water. Like Lacan is what I mean. And so she's been really teaching this new way of acting through her training for the actor studio. And I think through her work has definitely, I should also say her name, Kruning is her name, has sort of really changed acting in more of sort of what our lineage, which is the actor studio drama school, which is like quote unquote the method, which I also want to side note, like there's a lot of misunderstandings of what the method is and how do you use it and how does it work. I think it's gotten a bad rap because of actors using it the wrong way and thinking that's what the method is. It has become a little bit of like a punchline a little bit, but it's really not that at all. Like if you by using quote unquote the method that you have to harm yourself or harm other people, that's not it at all. So let me just get that out of the way. But she's been really sort of implementing that training here. And now we've come to a point where we have our own space, which is called Life Studio. And I met her last year and she was basically just talking about like how she wants to expand life theater into having our own space and doing more projects, and something about like the possibility of being here and becoming a member of a theater and having a say in terms of having a little bit more agency over my career, which you don't have there at all, was really enticing. That was one thing. And the second thing was being close to family. And after being there for so many years, I knew that at some point I wanted to return back here. I just didn't know how. And over there, I'm by myself. Like in terms of like I don't have any family over there, and it's been something that I've been really thinking about. I want to be closer to family. I think that was something that's really important to me as I'm getting older.
I think I want to borrow Sin's question from earlier and ask in this context, did you have any fear at all setting goal of all of that? Because for myself, I certainly felt a big, massive decision. It was like life-changing. Like I'm moving my whole entire life, and my whole, like I had to negotiate with my parents, what were the terms and things like that, before moving. And
so sorry. I feel like I didn't answer your question that way. I mean, I said yes immediately. I was like, because she was like, you could do this, you could do that, and be close to family, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll come back. Sure. Yeah. Yes, totally. And then I flew back to New York, and then I was like, wait, do we really want to go? Like, what does that mean? And so that was August of last year, and I gave myself until like March of this year. So I didn't move back right away. Like I told her like I need to finish out some things and I needed some time to process it. So it took me a little bit of time to really think about like what that would mean, because it is a huge move for me. Like New York is my home, like was my home, and I love New York. It has its flaws and everything, but I made my life there. Like I had really close friends and I was working semi-regularly, but I felt like I had to figure it out. But the truth was like, where was I going to be like happier in terms of like my career and with family? Because being there wasn't going to get me closer to family. Even though like I had a career there were some things that I felt like I still wanted to do that I didn't get to do yet. I think that's the same with any actor. Trying to let go of my life there was pretty tricky, and telling my friends was particularly hard, I think, because, we've gotten a really close-knit group, and so it felt very, very sad to leave that. But I had time, so I had time to kind of process that. It was a big move, but in my gut, it felt like the right move. And going back to like what was more important. Some part of the fear was like, what am I going to do here? And what if I don't get to do it here? Or like, how far can I go? And so I don't know. I don't have any answers to those questions. But what I do know is that I've been given this opportunity that I feel like I couldn't really turn down. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I know where my passion and where my gut is telling me, and I just had to follow that. At the end of the day, I don't really know what's right or what's wrong. I just know what is more important to me. And I don't want to regret making wrong decisions. And so I had to leave some things in order to gain some other things. I feel like I'm still processing that. Like, it's kind of weird to be like, oh, I guess I'm not going back to New York. Like, I'm not like, the next time I go back, I'll be like a visitor, which is very odd for a city that I know really well. Or like today, like I just got a car. Like it's very weird because that really solidifies me being here. You know,
a car does solidify people. Like, oh, I have a car now.
Right.
Sorry, I can't move.
Right. I have payments. Like, I can't move. Like, I have to take care of this thing. Because before I could just, like, there's, mentally, it could be like, hey, just move back. It'll be fine. But, like, like every day I feel like I'm further solidifying here. And so it's kind of like a daily thing of like, I'm slowly moving here. It's going to be okay. Like, life is going to come. Like, because I can be a little bit, like, I want things to happen right away, but I need to be patient. And, like meeting you already has been like kind of like a miracle in itself. For me, just on this podcast is very weird. I just got back, but I've been in the very much like, I'm open to whatever to come in. Like, I'm open to experiences.
That sounds really spicy. Right.
Right. Let me like... I'm open to new experiences. Who knows what that will be, right? I'm not just talking professionally. I'm also trying to date, so I'm open to dates as well. But anyway, but I've been very much like, yeah, let's grab coffee. Like, yeah, of course I'll come. Like, I'll come and support your event. I would love to meet people. So I feel like because I'm new here, I want to be very open to, like connections with people, and I want to find where my people are.
Well, something that you said just now reminded me of this phrase, not really a phrase, but a saying that I saw somewhere online. I can't fully remember how that sentence was, but it was something like, we will never be ready until we just do it, right?
Yeah.
Like, how would we know? Like, we just have to take the first step first, then we can be ready. Yeah.
It is definitely scary to make like big moves and big decisions, but again, like as you were talking, like I made that big leap to become an actor. And I think being an actor really teaches you to trust in your gut and your instinct and be bold about things and follow the path that you feel like is right for you. And hopefully the chips will fall where they are meant to fall, right? And I'm scared. I'm definitely scared. Like, it's definitely hard, and I'm still kind of dealing with some of that. But I'm excited at the same time, like with life, like we're doing our first show in November. I'm going to be a part of that. We're putting the cast together, and my other colleague, Krubul, is writing an original piece for us. Like, that's super exciting. And we're working with really talented, amazing actors, and it'll be our premiere sort of gala opening of our space as well. Like, that is very exciting to me. And again, my small brain is like, oh, it's not New York, but like, who the fuck cares? You know what I mean?
What you've said as well, and one of the things I caught, and I thought that it was so magical, is that being an actor, it's almost like you're training to not fear things, to be like, what you call that, like fearless, to be fearless. But at the same time to dream. I think that's like the duality that comes with this being an actor, because you learn to push away the fears. You have to. It just comes with the job, right? But at the same time, it's not just living inside this fear, but from all the stories that you share, there's always the next thing that you're very excited for. And that's the thing that I feel like some people in other industries might not have, because they don't see that excitement, and they're like, what am I working for? They're just working for the sake of working, So hearing this, I'm like, that's also something I love about theater. I learned to look forward and find the small things that I'm very excited for and work hard towards it. And once it comes, if it does, the payoff is immense.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, I think being an actor, you're confronted with so many things. Like you're talking about the fear and that, like you're confronted with that every day, right? Like when you audition for something, like there's a lot of fear that comes, or anxiety or nervousness that comes with that, or making these choices. Like you're confronted with kind of emotions all the time. And I think as actors, like because we are so versed in our own psychology, because you kind of have to be an actor, I feel like, that trained in a way in how to deal with some of these emotions that come up with not, I don't think, if you have a corporate job, may not be so familiar with approach it differently.
They might not find the same way of how to process.
Right. The thing is, everything that happens to you that comes in, it's like, it's never about pushing it away. It's about like, how can you incorporate that and move forward?
To feel it.
To feel it, basically, right. It's okay to be afraid and it's okay to be scared, but how do we move through that into a different space? Because if you push it away, it only gets bigger, right? I will stand firm on that statement. Pushing emotions down only makes it bigger, and it will manifest like in other avenues, right? But yeah, I think that's one of the really wonderful joys of being an actor, is like kind of going through these emotional experiences. I mean, being sort of open to humanity is what I mean. Like, and so it's like one of the things that I think that I want to teach in the future, like class about frame of mind, which is basically how to deal with mindset things in terms of how do you deal with it on into daily life? Because I think for actors, we have to do it, but it's also really useful for anyone, really, right? Be in the right mindset.
Sounds like to me when you're in New York, your life is more so like in front of the screen or on a theater, more like, the upfront. I know it's only been 2 months since you came back. Are you more focusing on still, like on the stage, or more back of house?
I think it's going to be a combination, because at Life, there are a couple of projects that I'm going to be behind. Like I might be an acting coach. I might be, so we're also pitching projects with other production companies and other organizations to work together. So how we see my role here at Life, it's going to be sort of a combination. Some things that, like this show that we're doing in November, I'm going to be a part of. And then some things I might be behind the scenes as maybe as a producer, or helping with the story, or an acting coach. And I think that's the other thing that was very exciting to me, is to be an actor, but also be on the other side as well. So we've done some castings and things like that. I've been in the room with talks where I have never been in that room before in the States, because I'm just an actor. But to be in the room is really fascinating, to also see how things work over here and how those conversations are made. So I really enjoy, I want to learn. Like I definitely want to grow and learn and have different skill sets. Like I think here, because the industry is small, that it's hard to just be an actor. Like you can have the other things. I just want to conquer the world. But I do love learning. I think being an actor, like you have to like learn things constantly. Like I love doing like a new role where they're like, we're going to train you how to ride a horse. I'd be like, oh yes, I would love that,
I think now that you've been back to Thailand for quite a bit, I'm interested to hear of your perspective of what the theater scene is like here in Thailand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it has changed a little bit, I think maybe over the years, but theater in any city is hard. Like there's something that's going on in New York right now as well, where like there's like theaters that are closing, or like they've laid off staff members, and Broadway is going through a cycle as well. I think it's also because we just had a pandemic, and so gathering of people, it's taking a while for us to get back to that type of norm. But in terms of theater in Bangkok, like I've seen a couple since I've been here, and it's always been like very exciting to see what the local scene is like. I definitely think there's space to grow, but theater is hard. It's not. I think it's kind of not in the. It's not in the like the normal zeitgeist of Bangkokians. I can't believe I said that as a phrase. Zeitgeist and Bangkokians to go to go see theater. Like, I think it's like normal to go see a movie or like, like go have a dinner together and go to a bar, but like go see theater, it's kind of not. It's like not quite a thing yet. You know what I mean? There's like sects of groups of people that they love doing that. But how do you expand that and have more people go and support theater? Because I do think that theater is crucially important and something that we need to support. So I think there's definitely space to grow, but to see that there's so many people who are passionate in doing it and doing the good fight and like putting up theater for little money and having people with passionate people in theater come together to do something is magical. Like there's a lot of talented people in Bangkok who are doing theater and I think we should support them and expand on that.
How about on a like personal level? If we just scrutinize it down to you, I'm curious to hear, how do you feel about yourself in this particular environment? Do you feel like you have an upper hand because you have all these training? You're from literally the capital city of stage. And now you're here, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, because that's how I see you. I see you as this role model coming from New York, fresh off the boat, like still hot from the stage lights of New York, and you're here and here you are. And I'm sure that a lot of people here really look up to you, but that's what I would think. So I'm wondering, how do you see yourself being here?
Oh gosh. Right. I came off the plane and there was like paparazzi everywhere and theater goers were like, oh gosh, he's back. I mean, I would definitely say that I have a lot of experience. And I'm very proud about that because I have fought tooth and nail to, be in the industry and for any experience that I've got, plus being in grad school for 3 years and working with really talented people and really going through it. Like I've been through it, through the ups and downs of the industry over there. And I feel like that's something that I can definitely share and bring. I've also had different teachers because after grad school I still took classes and I learned from all of my colleagues that are working regularly or we're in shows together. I definitely feel like being an actor, like learning, it never ends. Like you keep on learning because acting is life. I don't know how other people perceive me. All I know is like I have this knowledge to offer and I'm hoping that people are receptive to it, to receive it, because I really want to share. And that's the one wonderful thing of being part of life is I have like a platform. I have my own classes and we do projects together. And also my colleague also went to the same program. So we have the same thinking, right? We have the same thinking in terms of acting style and acting technique. And so having that platform has been really wonderful in order to share what experience I have. So I don't know what other people are thinking. I just know from my end, I'm excited to share, from all the things that I've experienced.
I'm going to touch this in a respectful way, which could turn quite controversial, but who cares, right? Yeah, but I'm also respectful, okay? Yeah. Anyways, we somewhat touched a little on it just now, which is being Asian and then being an Asian in this industry. While you were in New York, I assume that it was already hard enough. But now that you're back into an Asian country, do you feel like your identity is even better here, aside from the great experience that you brought back from New York? So far, do you think that being Asian, starting a whole new journey here as a person who will venture into the theater industry here, it's going to be easier than when you were in New York?
I feel like I'm still new and still learning. And so that's why I've been seeing a lot of shows and I'm trying to meet as much people as I can because I'm curious about like, what is the state here and where is my role? Like, how can I be of service? And, like, where's my puzzle piece? So right now, I feel like there's pros and cons of New York and there's pros and cons in Bangkok. Like, that's what I'm experiencing. Like, being here, of course, like in terms of being Asian, that's irrelevant because everyone is Asian here, or, like that's the majority. But then I am older now, and I have worked here a couple of times, and people see me in a certain way. Like, I feel like there are some things that are advantageous, but there's also different things that are at a disadvantage. That's what I'm learning. Over there, things are done a certain way. Like, over there, I have representation. So I have an agent and a manager. In some ways, like, I'm not actually, there's a huge chunk of it that I'm not looking for work. Like, as in, like, my representation is doing that for me. I don't have that here. So I am, like, out in the wild, like on Facebook, or just like, looking at postings. Like, it's very odd to do this again, because that's what I did when I first got out of grad school. Like, scrappy, like, because I don't know exactly, it's not the same as over there, where there's like a breakdown and there's like a whole system from casting to agents to managers to the actor, and then how things get cast. But here it's like wild west is what I'm experiencing right now. So it's like, I don't know who to go to. Like, who am I talking to? Because I don't have representation here. I don't think a lot of people do, unless you're like a big star. And a lot of things are just being offered. Like, audition process is a little different. Like, I went to a commercial casting last week, and it was like wildly different from like casting in New York. So I have to adjust a little bit on that. So, so there's some things that
what was the difference?
So in casting in New York, which is, I think, very unique to New York, because in LA, I think they do things slightly different, is that people in New York just don't have time. Like, we're like, everything is quick. So you're getting, now I guess it's changed, but back in the day, you would go into the audition casting office, and then they will say your name, and then they'll do things really quick. So you're like in and out in a couple minutes, which is crazy, right? Because this whole job is riding on those couple minutes. And it's just like in and out. So even though it's like an action scene,
I see where you're going with this. You're about to say that in Thailand, it takes forever.
It takes forever. It just takes a little longer. You really wanted, that's what the answer that you wanted, right? Well, but also, like, I was doing a casting last week, and they wanted to do every shot in the commercial. So as an audition. So they had a camera person like do all of the shots that are in the same as the commercial. So it's kind of like we shot the commercial, but like in audition format, you know what I mean?
So they're like, oh, we're not going to cast you anymore. And then you're like just on the TV screen already. You're like, wait a minute, like, hello?
Right.
Like, we got what we needed.
Right. But it's like so funny to me, like, it's just how, but it's just like, that's how we do it here. But in that process, it just takes longer. And do you really need to see like all of the like? Isn't there a way to condense it? That's in my brain, but at the same time, I have to just kind of let go and be like, things are done differently, and that's like I have a friend who's a makeup artist who used to do New York Fashion Week, and he did like big stars over there, and he's Thai, so he moved back here a couple of years ago, and we had a conversation, and he's like, you have to just prepare yourself because things are done differently here, and you just have to be okay with it. Like your rate is going to be different. Like how you get jobs are going to be different. Like he had to expand on not just doing makeup. He had to be an influencer, and you take on like being a spokesperson for makeup brands, etc. So you're going to have to figure out what it is for you, but there's going to be some things that it's going to be widely different, and you just have to kind of go with the flow.
I love this because I'm about to be very controversial as well and brave. I personally think that I can respect what was shared to a certain level in terms of how things are done in Thailand. I agree that we need to respect the culture and the way things are done, but at the same time, my own personal perspective of this thing is I don't have the time for this sort of way. If I'm using like Daenerys Targaryen, like Game of Thrones, like perspective, like I don't want to just be part of the wheel. I want to like break the wheel. I want to like change. Yeah. And that's a lot of the things that I work with Sin in this company. And that's what we try to do. We try to shape, not all, we're not going to change everything, but at least make some differences and some changes for people. Because I personally think that my own perspective from what you've experienced and how I hear it is that I feel like it comes from that mentality of like the sabai mentality where you can take things slowly. It's not just personally, I think that it's not just in theater, hearing your story that it's happening. It happens everywhere, like in events, in ordering something in a restaurant. It takes forever. They take forever to take your order. And you want to get something fixed. Your car's broken. You take your car there. It takes months for you to fix. Whereas like in Taiwan, it takes like a day. They're like, oh, just come back later. We'll get it fixed for you. That's the thing that I think needs to change in this time and age and culture. Like in this environment, I feel like that's something that can be improved. I'm not saying that needs to completely change, but this particular thing is what I believe slows down the economy in Thailand.
I mean, it's very different, like how things work over there, like because there's unions over there that are strictly dictating like contracts. So when I get an acting job for a show, like a theater show, it's already really dictated very specifically like how it's going to go, like how many rehearsals you could do a week, even like break times, like how long you could do tech, how many shows, what time you get called in, when you're done, and stage managers who take care of that schedule run like military time. Like it's very, very, very like start on time and end on time, because if outside of that, an actor can call the union and they have the power to shut your show down. Like it's a huge thing. That doesn't happen here. like here, there's like time is a little gray. Like
I agree with what you said. Like there's pros and cons in both sides. I personally prefer the side where there's some management and organization.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, like talking about that, like so our theater company, like we want to do things different. That's what I was talking about, like sort of the acting style, like that technique. Like we've been really implementing that. Our classes run a little differently. Like so Kuning and I, we used to do a workshop together, an acting workshop, and I took ideas from my experience over there, and also from a mentor of mine, or I took some classes with this acting coach, Larry Moss, who I think is one of the best acting teachers that I've ever had. And he really talks about sort of like the discipline and the actor's craft. And so I brought a lot of that mentality to our classes. So the structure of our class for that particular class is the actors have to prepare before they come into class, which was unheard of. Like you never do that. And so we required actors to be very committed to memorize lines, to bring in props and costume, and to rehearse a scene. And then on the first day, they deliver it. Like that was unheard of. But the thing is, what I've noticed is that when you demand of them, like these actors will deliver. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you really raise the bar and bring them forth, and when coming from the outside, from the other end, meaning like when they finish class, they can see how much they've grown. Then they understand like why we do the things we do. It's like a combination of like what can you go with the flow and what can you kind of change, but how do you change it, right? Like, so for me, it's like, how do you change it from the inside out is what I'm thinking. Having this theater company, I think we're doing some of that already.
And I'm also guessing the reason why the industry here currently is a bit maybe wishy-washy, I don't know, it's probably because, like you said, in New York, you have like an organization, a union to control things, as if there's already a set of work regulations for this career, whereas maybe for here, I don't know, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, or maybe the regulations here for this industry is not as well written yet. I don't know, I'm not sure.
I think it's like what you said, it's like that sabai kind of Thai way.
I personally feel like it's more fun to work with a deadline for like tech runs, just putting it out there, like no 2 days for you to do this. And then like as a stage manager, when I work, I was like,
yeah, I'm so used to like having things in place. Like I feel comfortable in knowing, but what I'm realizing here, it's just not done that way. There's a little wiggle room with everything. Like coming on this time, there's a little wiggle room because traffic is bad and people are coming from all over the city and things end like when they end. Like it's just, that's just how it's done here. I mean, my colleague, she has done theater for a long time, crooning, and now she's venturing into doing movies and TV shows. She just finished this upcoming TV show called 4 Minutes, and we were kind of talking about like how things are done there and over here, and she's bringing a lot of her discipline from theater into to that world, which I think is very exciting. We're sort of in this era right now with life of like blending our theater side with like mixed media, which is really exciting. But it's kind of like what things can you bring forth and change, and what things might take more time, right? Some things are a little easier than others. Like talking like about a TV set, it's like that's a huge machine and things are done a certain way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a continuing conversation, right? Of like, how can we slowly improve overall?
You need to plan extra time for whatever it is you're booked for.
You just go back. You're just going back. We need rules and regulation. Thing is, like, if there was a actors union here, that would be so wonderful. But I just don't know how that
it's probably
happen.
Hard. Not that it's not possible. It's anything's possible, right? But maybe the culture here that, the culture here, how most people are brought up in this kind of like mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes this implementation even more difficult. Yeah,
it's very, very difficult because it would require not just all actors, but like all the celebrities, like all actors, to agree on doing it. Meaning that we'll have to band together and, I guess, be like, we're going to be a union, and then we're going to draft this thing, and then we have to follow through. If a celebrity is like, I'm not going to do that because I can negotiate by myself, much better, then it won't work. You know what I mean? Because the celebrities are the ones getting the jobs. You know what I mean? Ultimately, like, they're the ones working. So why would they not? Because you're going to have to also negotiate with the producers. So that means during that time, nobody's working. Like, nobody can work. That's how unions work, right? When we had a strike, nobody was working. If someone breaks that, then it will crumble. So, who's going to be the big actor that's going to be like, oh, I'm okay not working? Like, it's such a cutthroat industry already. So I don't know how how that can be implemented.
It's such a complicated topic, and because it's so deep rooted into how the system is already run. Yeah, like I like, if we get into this topic, I probably will get really worked up,
I can see already.
And like I feel like it's frustrating, and because I really agree to the point where you said that everybody must band together, but in Thailand there's already a hierarchical system that's happening between actors themselves and who does the deals and all these things. And in Thailand, from my perspective, I see a lot of celebrities getting all the jobs and there's no room left for anybody. What happened to, what was it that we learned in marketing class? Brand representation. Like, one celebrity can represent all the brands. I'm like, what? Like, so they're everything. Like, they're also healthy and also like a loving family. And also, it's just like not true. Like, like not one person. I mean, it could be true for somebody, but not everybody can be everything. And in Thailand, one celebrity can be everything and be representing everything.
We're a huge celebrity culture here, right? I think that's why, like, but I mean, this is probably globally too, but like influencers have also been like a rising thing, right? You have a lot of followers, then you become like a well-known person and a celebrity, and then that's like where the money is sort of flowing to. So it's smaller than an industry over there. So there's just more competition for things that are out there. So, like, again, to have like actors band together, it would require someone, I'm just speculating, like a big actor, like a huge actor to round everyone up. But it's you become a union for everyone, right? Like, that's why you have the union. So from the background actor to the series regular to the lead will all have protection. Like, that's the point of having a union. So like over in the actors union over there, like with equity and with SAG-AFTRA, like that's what the reason why. I mean, also they have a lot of power now, but they always say it's it's for the sake of everyone. Everyone in the union can benefit.
I think that with that said as well, we don't have to completely change the whole system, but we can all aim to make a difference in the system. And going back to one of the things that I think Vin said about himself of like finding your puzzle piece, I feel like now that you have this platform, you don't have to find your puzzle piece, but you are the frame to other people's puzzles. Be that frame.
Yeah.
And I feel like with this particular topic that we're discussing right now, we could be that change. You could be that change. You could be the change to start doing things slightly differently. And when people start catching on to that, you'll be that change. You'll be that frame.
Yeah.
Other people will be that puzzle piece to that frame of yours.
Yeah. Right. And I'm also like the frame, smaller frame within a bigger frame.
So this is like a Russian doll situation.
Right.
I think with that said as well, that is the end of our episode. I want to just round up by saying that I've got reminded of how important it is that theater is a part of my life and how privileged I am to be able to fall in love with theater and take theater and being able to grow and use these skills in my life that theater helps me reflect on a lot of things. And I really, truly believe that after, people hearing what Vin has shared with everybody here, you all should go take his classes,
Yes.
Yes, like all the things that Vin has also like promoted. I feel like I even want to try that out. I want to try his classes and be re-invited into the world of theater.
But yeah, I thank you for that. I really encourage anybody and everybody to go see a show. And I know the big theater here is Lachada Lai, which of course go support them, but there are other theaters in the city that are doing really wonderful, courageous work that need your support, and theater will change you. It changes your chemistry, it expands your mind, it opens up your heart. And also if that's right for you, take an acting class. If you're not I think it's wonderful to connect with other people, because you really are exploring humanity. And so if you're not someone who gets to do that in an everyday setting, taking an acting class and going to theater will fulfill that for you.
Yeah, and I just want to end this episode just by also thanking the universe and thanking you, Vin, for being here. And I'm so grateful, really. We're talking about being, Russian doll within a Russian doll. I do feel like, I was enveloped inside your, Russian doll and and how everything is connected. And I'm really grateful that I feel like if we were to sit anywhere else that night, we wouldn't. Yeah.
Thank you, Vin, again for brightening up everyone's mind today. For me, just one last word from myself is I truly, truly think that our world is so much more beautiful when there is art and creative people.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been so amazing to talk to you too. And I can talk about this all day, but I really love talking about theater and art and humanity. It's, a never-ending conversation.
As Shakespeare once said, all the world's a stage, and all men and women merely players. At Buddy Time, we aim to shine a spotlight on diverse individuals from all walks of life, providing insights into a beautiful, ever-evolving world. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Next on our podcast, we'll explore the topics of gap years. We're excited for you to meet our next guest speaker. Stay tuned.